revenge. I'm gonna tell us this revenge. We're gonna call this the revenge game. Yes, it's gonna be fun. For so much shit. Okay. I should be so nice. Oh, I have to go home. I feel like I was just in. Flowers? I think he meant followers. I like using the mirrors. Well, perfect. I don't need this stone. Hey, I'm gonna sell this. Ooh, that'd be nice. This one, yeah. Make $30 off it. Here, that's cheap. Revenge. Okay, not for games, but revenge games. punched me, so yeah. So now he's on the revenge list. First we're gonna go he takes his stuff. That's way too much. Kids are horrible. Which are actually pretty good, but they're so annoying. Plus they're so cheap. This is like 100. Come on. Come on. Come on, I'm hitting great. Come on, collect. Collect. Oh my god. And now I can buy my machete. If I buy
She and the Democratic legislature implemented a set of rules to keep these two parallel programs going. One was the adult use recreational program, anybody over the age of 21, whatever. But we also have a medicinal marijuana program where you need a medicinal card, and it's counterintuitive, but there's less regulation, less oversight, no mandated testing, few exact moments when you start to see Chinese individuals from New York and Massachusetts, largely Flushing area and the Malden area, start to buy up rural properties with large garages, barns, outbuildings, large basement attics, that kind of thing. So right as we legalize marijuana, the buying takes off and the illegal side of things take off. And that's because this is really a playbook that Chinese organized crime had learned in Washington State, California, and Oklahoma before. They knew that in states that legalize cannabis, they can camouflage themselves by confusion in the community when all of a sudden, there's 7 properties in a town of 3,000 people that are owned by Chinese nationals, criminals, and there's all the people are like, well, we don't know, this could be illegal, we're not really sure what's going on. And so that in part allowed them to flourish and profit because they were allowed to camouflage themselves within the legal program.
It's crazy because I've heard this again, like you say, in other states. I've never heard about this in but what do you start to kind of like identify? I feel like you were saying, some people might say they're hey, they're just, they get exploited and they're figuring it out. But at what point did you feel like there was some kind of connection to either the foreign government or foreign market cartel? At what point did you feel like that we need to give us them making good business and then keep the opportunity?
Yeah, well, I would say the kind of, there are a handful of moments where it really started to dawn on me that these were all interconnected because, when we first started examining the problem, there was one possibility, which was that the idea of growing marijuana in Maine had just become like a sensation within the Chinese migrant community, and it was just all one-off, not interconnected, rather than individual collectives operating together with shared supply chains and hierarchical management system. So we needed to prove and demonstrate that this was actually an organized criminal conspiracy with command and control, a system-based construction in Northern Massachusetts. And we started to see signs of connections between marijuana growers very, very far apart. For example, we see the same master electrician working on sites that are 300 miles apart. It's just not something, electricians, they have as much business as they want within 10 miles of their hometown. They don't need to travel 300 miles to go hook up some, 400 amp or orchestra. But they would do that if they were getting $2,000 extra for looking at a way of what was going on there. But then also, when we started publishing our first stories on this, in October of 2023, we had by that point identified and visited around 150 of these illicit marijuana grows, and that posting the story immediately went viral, millions of hits on social media, and that opened the floodgates of people coming to me with their experiences, what they'd seen as neighbors at these properties, as code enforcement officers, as police officers, but especially as employees for the electrical company. Because the electricity here is really fundamental because every single one of these sites needs a very huge amount of electricity in order to function. Because we're not talking like outdoor grows in California or Oklahoma. All of these are indoor grows, and so you've got a house filled with cannabis plants and get these lights running. So
Actually, it's a struggle. What's the question? Process simple. Plus, we offer a lifetime warranty for added peace of mind. Excellent. Once that solution has been found. It's so super important to me. I want to make sure this is not the best spin out here.
You know, I need slow and fast.
Special profiles to help with that.
That's how you keep them real.
So 12 hours a day. Heat, so you also use mini split heat pumps around the house, like air conditioning units. So you're in the middle of climate and the humidity right inside these clothes. So where they didn't upgrade their electricity, they were starting fires and burning houses down. So they quickly learned that they needed to upgrade their electricity, but even when they got 400 amp panels or 800 amp panels, they would be melting transformers. So they'd be on the phone with the electric companies saying, hey, you need to get, linesmen out here immediately to hook up our electricity because, 3 hours, 4 hours of no electricity, that could be $100,000 problem for New England marijuana growers if it allows the plants to die or turn to males or in some other way interferes with what they're doing. So the linesmen knew and had been keeping track of all of the properties where they go and they install, a 15 kVA transformer blows out and they go and install a 50 kVA transformer. Then that blows out and then they install a 100 kVA transformer and that blows out. And they have to order, special custom order the biggest transformer we have in Maine for some little teeny town up in northern Maine, just because there's this one obscure property that happens to be consuming enough electricity to smelt aluminum. So these guys were at the front line seeing this. They were allowed access to these properties in order to hook up the electricity, and they would have interactions with going to marijuana grow in very, very remote, very rural Maine, and at the property was military aid, wearing what was described in this. Everywhere they go around the property, they're escorted by escorted off the property with two $100 bills tucked in their back pocket. And they say coffee money, and push them off the property. And so that was, I got goosebumps thinking about that. We visited some of these sites, and the road was lined with that turn on lights. You can see if they got cameras that are driving. There's pretty extensive surveillance.
Do you have videos of this?
Road, and again, it's a town of 600 people, and the lights start to flip on, and we know that there's sensors, and we can see lights all around, and we know that the same organization, and that was fun. I mean, getting things we were less interested in making sure that we were filming, and more interested in getting back to the background. But we have hours and hours of video that we sit and look for documentary, and there is some film of this. Unfortunately, actually, the language barrier, they just kind of pretend they can't speak English, most of the interviews that we conducted with them were they would call somebody in New York and hold out their iPhone, and then that person, the handler, talks, and it's always, they're just playing dominoes. My cousin, they're visiting, no, we don't know what you talked about, we don't want to sell this property, that kind of thing. So it's very difficult to try to talk with them. There's things like that, like sensing, like a military feel to some of the sites. Some of these places, it's elderly women, 60-year-old women there who you can tell are just being exploited as laborers to grow cannabis. But some of these guys have, sharp eyes. And, you get chased off the site by a couple of angry-looking guys in black Toyotas. It's hard to really describe it. You can feel it and you can sense it. And when you started to see that aspect of it, and also find the connections between all each site and the distribution channels, on the common financial channels and the command and control of operation behind this. That's when we started to suspect that we were dealing with an organized criminal element. And actually went to the Maine State Police before we even published it. We went to the Maine State Police and said, hey, we've got evidence of a vast criminal conspiracy here. And if you guys are in the middle of investigating this, we don't want to affect what you're doing by publishing it all and scaring these guys and sending them into the wind. But we do think this is newsworthy needs to be reported on, and the Maine State Police refused to read it.
I was going to ask that next. I had a couple questions before that. But, let me know. What makes you grow illegal?
So there's a number of towns in Maine that haven't opted into Maine's cannabis program. So if the cannabis grows in those towns, they're de facto illegal. And the other thing is that they are, like all of the cannabis programs or cannabis operators require licensure to the program, either the adult use recreational or these sites we were finding had no license for it. In the program, if you're licensed as what's called a care group, you're allowed to grow 35 plants. These growers are growing 2,000 plants. Because they're not licensed, they're not paying taxes, they're not paying fees, they're not paying their laborers. Their laborers are often victims of human trafficking. There's also often bank fraud and financial fraud involved in the acquisition of these properties because they use a special mortgage program where they attest that they're going to make it the principal residence as a marginalized community member, but in fact it's an illegal small business. Another agreement they have is marijuana, like all the marijuana that's sold in Maine must be sold in Maine because it's so federally illegal. So that if criminal operations were growing so much marijuana, it would be impossible to sell it off the state of Maine. So they were exporting it out of the state of Maine for sale in New York and other states, including states where marijuana is prohibited across the board. So it was really a racketeering enterprise that was illegal on a number of fronts. At the basic level, they were operating without a license and without under the radar of any of the marijuana regulatory authorities.
Hey guys, I want to give a shout out to a company I've trusted for over 11 years. First Form. They make high quality supplements, protein powders, vitamins, performance products, everything you need to support your health, fitness, and when I'm dieting and focused on my health, these are the products I try. They're formulated with protein powders and I use it after every workout and it tastes amazing. They have other flavors too, like salted caramel, red velvet, and chocolate milk cookies. Not a protein shake person, no problem, but protein bars taste like candy bars. My favorite flavor is cookie. All the First Form products are made here in the U.S. No junk, no special ingredients, no BS. Orders over $75, shipping free, and if you don't love it, they'll actually give you 110% of your cost. Go check out firstform.com/borderline. Who would be good for you to take that down or to that you want to go to? Outside of like just local police, you go to them and they say no, they don't want it. Who is the next person
So that gets to, I think, a key weakness of our American market, which is when these people are doing the music video exploring this. And that was that this is just a jurisdictional aspect to it. This is just a mess. Nobody knows. Locals don't know. Tourists, they figured it out eventually when we started drawing up the but the state police didn't want to touch it, NGO didn't want to touch it, they were told this is fentanyl, heroin, that's the only thing we got on the drug front. And if this is a joke, we're not following ourselves with it. This is a story about they've been involved in maybe 3 of the search warrants of like 60 or 75 different enforcement actions. But the federal DEA would have some level of jurisdiction here. They've gone after marijuana growers, licensed marijuana growers in the state of Maine. just like French Canadian guys, but they haven't gone after any of the Chinese guys yet. The Trump's U.S. attorney in Massachusetts did invite 7 Chinese nationals who were kind of ringleaders of a conspiracy that included those in Maine. So it should have been the Justice Department, should have been the federal DEA, should have been the state police working in concert with their federal partners. But for a number of reasons, many of them political correctness, not wanting to be called racist or to be accused of racial profiling. A lot of the police agencies just stood down.
That's insane. Oh, I want to go back to the beginning. You said how many illegal drugs do you believe were in the state of Maine?
I think we're looking at between 500 and 1,000. And I would say it's not just grows. So we're looking at 500 to 1,000 properties that are controlled by Chinese organized crime. And a lot of them are cannabis growing facilities, but some of them are also hoarding houses. For example, there's a case in Western Maine that we investigated extensively where it was an old doctor's office. And when a group of Chinese buyers came up and asked through a translator or if the doctor's office could be made into a boarding house, was the language that they used. So in a town where they've got 8 marijuana grows, they've got a boarding house at a central location, and that's where the workers, eat, sleep, and shit. At night, when it's lower risk of them encountering police, they go out and spend all in marijuana houses. They also have large warehousing and shipping facilities that they've had constructed along the I-95 corridor. They know that their biggest risk is getting pulled over by law enforcement with hundreds of pounds of marijuana on them. That's going to lead to some questions with how this food shop is. So they want to have these warehouses that are like a 5-minute drive from I-95. They get on I-95 and they head south, going the speed limit the whole way, and you're down the stretch of transit. But there's also businesses that they control that appear to be legitimate businesses for clients. Where there's a owner of a restaurant in Denver got himself certified as an electrician's assistant and is tied to more than 34 properties that would become illegal marijuana business, including sites that have been raided. I've had the shipping company for that restaurant. I don't know how he's staying in business. I don't know. We went there undercover and interviewed the guy. So he owns a middle school about an hour north of Bangalore. He bought a whole friggin' middle school to turn into a marijuana grow. They're literally taking over the class of preparing American society to grow their crappy cannabis and sell it to us for people.
Is that what you think the long game is that?
Oh, absolutely. Really? You're dealing with, this is, I would come to learning more about this entire world, how this industry works, how organized crime works, and how marijuana generally, the entire market works as a result of doing this investigative project. And the class of CCP tactic is when they're beginning some kind of an infiltration, it's like the one-off guys who come up to them and they start growing marijuana and they figure out the rules of the road and the culture, and they learn basically how do we have to operate if we're going to set up roots here, in Maine and generate some cash. What are we going to do? In the marijuana sites, looking at the ones that were purchased in 2019, 2020, 2021, less sophistication in how they're built than the ones that were purchased in 2023, 2024. By 2023, 2024, the sites are very sophisticated. At one site, we found a building that they've made for themselves, 3 stories, totally optimized for marijuana growing, and they had a piece of equipment there that was a $15,000 automatic marijuana flower processor called the Triminator. This thing can process like 20 or 40 pounds of dried marijuana flower in an hour. That's not something you have if you're just a little rinky-dink video block. That's something you have if you're the central processing for a huge network of marijuana. So they come in and they develop these networks that first with the wildflowers, then it becomes more sophisticated, and then the Chinese Communist Party United Front Group people step in and it becomes, de facto state-run organized crime. And we found at a property actually in Dexter, Maine, which is my hometown, at a house that I walked by thousands of times. They were like and went to high school. At the time I was a baby, age switched up the lot and a brand new BMW at a grow house, and for the Seafood Association of New York. Is one of these Chinese benevolent friendship associations. They're on paper they're nonprofits, but they're just front groups for the Chinese consulate. They're part of the United Front Group, which is basically the CCP operates here in the United States. And Philip Lenzacki from the Daily Caller would actually expand on our reporting just this year and find that the executive director of that association was arrested at a different marijuana grow an hour away from where I found those t-shirts in Dexter, Maine. So we have provable, documented ties directly to the New York consulate, and these guys are out on bail, going back to China, and then coming back to the United States to grow more marijuana. One of the things that I said is that we just don't have an immune system to repel something like this. The local cops are not prepared to deal with a state-level actor in a sophisticated organized crime that is smart, is savvy, and is exploiting every single weakness we have, including political correctness. I'll just say the thing that concerns me now, the thing that keeps me up at night is that these guys have built a network where they're getting little teeny vials, big cartridges. So they put all their pot in big, glass tube or steel canister, maybe gas extraction. Out comes the importance of THC or whatever everybody else is doing. Put in that little cartridge and they ship it throughout the United States. Going up in smoke shops, everything. Now, once the shotgun from swapping out the vials of 99% THC cartridges for something that's got weaponized doses on that, or any COVID-26, no. So they could really use these networks, multimodal networks, to have us distribute on their behalf a bioweapon and suddenly come out and say, all infections amongst our disparate regions, diverse populations. And that's progressive. It's a network for multimodal activity
I do there's a lot of threats, and that's one for sure. The government has financial, we're the ones on their pockets by our own parties. It's pretty wild. I think one of the most interesting things about the story, and about your investigative journalism, is that in this, you mentioned that there are politicians that are actively downplaying or covering up the issue. I'm interested to hear more about that, and I'm very curious that if you're willing to name names, I want to hear exactly who it is and what's going on.
Well, it's Governor Jane Mills, the governor of the state of Maine. She's in her second term. She's turned out, despite the coverage that this has received, probably the largest one was Tucker Carlson's podcast, but NBC News came up here and interviewed me. CBS News covered it. So CBS interviewed me, NBC covered it. Just totally ripped off my story and didn't bother talking about it all. The Glenn Beck show was dragging on, and this is like you see massive national and international attention. And now it's obviously you guys as well. They will not acknowledge that this is happening or answer my questions about it. There's none of the other media will answer about it. The governor has yet uttered a single word about a huge criminal conspiracy operating within the state, which also, marijuana is one of the biggest legal marijuana. So we have all these businesses that are just getting screwed over by depressed pricing. The analogy I use is it's like if 200 boats with Chinese flags came into the Gulf of Maine and started fishing for lobster 24/7 and totally disregarding our customs and our rules and like the whole regulatory system. And then they were shipping molecules all over the world. The state of Maine was like essentially like the Navy. We have, bath iron like warriors, the safety folks with no care of legally, and now they're being screwed over because the illegal competitors have a massive advantage, and the laws aren't being enforced against them because they're Chinese. And the government again won't talk about it. And we discovered through looking at physical tax records and property records, we discovered that the governor's brother has actually done business with Chinese national drug traffickers. We found a illegal marijuana grower in the town of Corinna, which is 1 pound over small mom grew up in it. But they
remember, we're living in Wednesday.
To transfer this illegal marijuana into the ownership of a Chinese national living in China. And we have the hard, the physical record, the real estate tax transfer document, all knows his address, his phone number, his email at the bottom of it, and then the name of the Chinese individual and the address in Guangdong Province, now facility, and the name of the Chinese individual from Malden, Massachusetts.
It's me.
It's publishing very shortly further information about the extent of Paul Mills' dealings with the Chinese drug cartels. But the governor hasn't commented on it. She hasn't commented on that. I interviewed Paul Mills for 10 minutes. We posted the entire interview.
Of course,
on X.
after
He
that.
acknowledged having done this real estate transfer. But had no thing to play down about the existence of the Chinese criminal conspiracy in the state of
I like to tell this corner because he's on country.
The head of the Drug Enforcement Agency hasn't talked about it. Shelley Pingree, our congresswoman in Southern Maine, has done nothing. Gary Golden, the congressman in the 2nd Congressional District, will go through all of the testimony of the time. All he's done is, sign on to
The fireworks
Collins about this.
the team has more
He's done absolutely nothing about this.
because, like, if you really want to kill someone you can sauce got his
who has cited my reporting that the former intelligence officials under Biden and now the intelligence officials under Trump are doing about it and really urge and MNC state level Republicans who are in a minority position and really don't have any power to do anything about it.
Man, what crazy mystery mentions and that no one would do anything about it. Sometimes I feel like in the law enforcement capacity, no one wanting to take any of it. Are they too afraid to step into that murky water of whatever this might turn into? It's the weirdest. This isn't the first time I've heard this in a different state. Like every state has the same guy, something in the matter that they bring to the attention of authorities, and we're kind of like, well, that's not mine, I'm not touching it, or whatever. And I find it to be one of the weirdest things I've seen in this drug cartel corruption kind of space that nobody wants to touch these things, so they just continue to exploit whatever opportunity they have. And in this situation, it's insane that you have to think about, or the listeners right now, or the viewers have to think about what other activities that they potentially could be getting into, border activities. Do they have relationships with cartel that are helping transport this across the nation? Money laundering, that's always a big one. Any kind of drugs in kind of nefarious actions, right?
All I'm just focused on is this getting off the
there's extensive surveillance on us. Like,
since I get 600 well, I can kind of go is by a week. How about like by the day by a real one.
We all have to be concerned about what's going on with the CCP and what they intend to do with America.
Like, not by weed, but it's weak. I'm not gonna use it like for good. Good. I'm not gonna use it just good, so it uses out fast.
Any thoughts on any of that and what they're doing? And really just why isn't it's like willful ignorance or outright because I don't know what it is, but it seems to be a lot of states do similar things.
Yeah, it's a question that I've been reckoning with for 2 years now. You know, I've driven over 10,000 miles around the state. It's a big state, and these marijuana grows are located in hard-to-find places, rural places. I've had a lot of time to drive in silence and contemplate this. At the beginning, talking with neighbors and officials and people in the marijuana business, everyone said all the politicians are bought off, they're bribed, you know, they're in their pockets, they're making money. And I made an intentional decision unless evidence suggested that that's what was happening.
Hey, by the way, one day I used to play a game, and if you run through so quickly, the lasers will detect you. Oh yeah, I actually played a game that used to do that.
That there aren't people in
No,
positions
no,
to
no. That tiny XP.
You're at this point, I believe that the reason why it continues to happen is because people in positions of power are benefiting from it and want to continue to 2 weeks ago, we actually reported
So, how do you break a door down? In the weaponry, that's basically impossible.
an individual called Morgan Young,
3, 2, 1, I cannot.
essentially
So I use it weekly. How should I do that? 600. I should use the glass 17.
well over $1 million, like $1.5 million in what were essentially, you know, bribes. I guess they seized the companies that seized on energy market consumption. These were bribes to the first family.
Bro, what did I do to
Same
him?
exact guy, Morgan
It was just
Young,
that one time.
who
I
was
didn't
making payments
I
to
didn't
the
kill
Biden
him.
family, also paid
Seriously,
an
what did I do to him?
manager in Northern Maine
But
$100,000
seriously.
so that she would sign on as the president of the marijuana club he was trying to start in this town. At the time, you know,
Yeah,
had residency
seriously.
requirements, marijuana business
I can't take a
no one
break.
had, but they needed a Maine resident. He couldn't find one, so he paid $25,000 to be a resident. So we know that there's a huge amount of money that's passed. Maybe 4 states, you know, $2,000, $5,000. That gets you very, very far if you're looking at that.
Where is? Oh, I was about to say, where is the door in
A
this?
documentary to a guy who went up to a Chinese cannabis trafficker who was working on one of his sites.
Tier
and
one,
they kind of knew
the
what was happening there.
8
And he just went up and harassed the guy and pretended to be a code enforcement
for
officer.
that.
Said, "This is all out of code. You can't do this. And we're going to shut you down." And the guy, they exchanged phone numbers, and 2 days later, the fake code enforcement officer gets a
T3
phone call
owner
from
kit,
some
I
woman
live
from
with
New York
35
looking
and
at
all
financial
that.
organizations. You know, okay, so if that happened,
So,
you know that happened once with the guy who
that time.
pretended to be a code enforcement officer, how many other times has that happened? How many times has that happened where the answer was, yeah, okay, I'll look at it. It's just pot. Who cares? Yeah, you guys can really pot $10,000. Wow. So I think that there's a lot of small-time petty corruption
Like a bad
bribes being paid, but I think, you know, there's also a higher level game being
Hey.
played that involves cannabis markets.
I need to have it in
nationally,
chat
where
already.
there's the big cannabis companies that want to become like the Bud Light or Coors Light of the cannabis world. And their biggest threat is the craft cannabis, the little guys, the mom and pop, you know, all these, you know, diverse thousands of different shops. The best way to shut them down is increase regulatory costs and compliance costs. And if you have a bunch of Chinese criminals
Revenge
growing a product that's
time.
contaminated
I
with
should got revenge on him right there.
pesticides and fungicides,
I did. I'm surprised myself.
those based on human trafficking, then that raises the public outcry for a regulatory plan. So if you have some new regulations in the public, you're also going to pop operations and you're going to benefit the largest cannabis corporations. So in the big picture, that dynamic is also playing out, and we know that the largest donors to Governor Mills' inaugural fund after she won election in 2018 were these large cannabis companies.
It's an interesting, man. As long as it's wild,
There's the FBI open! There's the FBI open!
I felt like we had to make a documentary because like no one would believe
What
me
did I
if
say I
didn't
could do?
like actually get video and go jump up and down in front of these sites and just like have overwhelming, compelling evidence for it. Because it's,
I can't
tell
just
random strangers
relax.
years ago, Chinese mafia has taken over the world.
Yeah.
Smoking Chinese food. You know, they're people crazy. But
Yeah, I just can't relax.
all the
Yeah, I can't relax. Well, when I said I just can't relax, yeah, I said, yeah, I can relax. When I said that, I was meant I was saying it. Bro, I can't even go to the cafe. Can't just catch a break. What did I do? Seriously.
Following breaking news from the federal court. A federal judge has brought out an unprecedented immigration-related lawsuit against
13's a lot to me.
want you to know about these. But right now, while you're watching this, 60 practical items. They tried. At 23:47 on July 14, 2025, a convoy of armored vehicles belonging to the Sinaloa cartel, loaded with drugs, cash, and weapons, tore through the Arizona desert like a storm heading straight for the U.S. border. This wasn't just a typical smuggling operation. This was a brazen incursion backed by firepower strong enough to turn any resistance to dust. They believed the path had been cleared, that not a single American soldier would dare to go.
Yes, I knew that the Mafia.
2-1, this is 2-2. Coast looks clear. Let's roll out. Over.
Cause seriously.
Copy. Come on.
Let's get moving. We got a lot of ground.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the X-Ranch. We're out here at the ranch today and I have something brand new unfired in the box and we're going to review it. Now, you guys know it's for mostly boat gun stuff, but I have a really this love affair with gas guns. And this picture goes back, I mean, the very first SR-25.
Today we're out here with cicadas screaming at us, but that's just a good indication that it's still summer. And you are looking at this rig because we have a video that's going to help inform you, a lot of you who may not haul this, but may be hauling a heavy fifth wheel, a heavy trailer that puts their vehicle into a different class of vehicle. And you have to understand what in so that you're safe and legal. And today, we actually have some folks out here to share some of that information with us as well. So we have the Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas Highway Patrol.
We're watching the greatest counter-revolution in some 90 years. We have not seen any president try to radically change the political calculus and the nature of government since FDR did it from the left during the New Deal of the mid-1930s. And what do I mean by that?
Some things don't make the headlines, not because they're unimportant, but because they're too inconvenient. Time to listen to someone who understands the deeper layers.
Donald Trump closed the border. Nobody thought he could. He closed it. He has now deported over 100,000.
Some people are concerned that they might have to go a long period of time without getting outside food, either because of shortages.
Ordered of all statuses who
I
are
need
here
to kill
illegally. He's basically declared war on DEI, and he's winning that argument. He has barred biological males from competing in women's sports.
I need a
That's full public
I'm
support
gonna
for doing that. He's raising enormous skins. The universities are rushing to competing with each other to cut a deal with Donald Trump. Agree to not gouge the federal government on federal grants and surcharges way over 50%, to follow civil rights legislation in the Supreme Court to not discriminate by race or gender as they do in admission, hiring, promotion, and tenure, and to be disinterested and be fair and follow, as I said, free speech canons and the Bill of Rights on campus. What am I getting at? This isn't winning on all of these social and cultural issues. Abroad, we see that Iran no longer poses a nuclear threat for the immediate future, that Israel's enemies, whether Hezbollah or Hamas or Houthis, are in disarray or severely attrited. Iran is no longer a threat to the Gulf States for the immediate future, and we see some Iranian war. People are angry about this.
It's cheaper.
For two reasons. It's succeeding. Naysayers who won't be turning on news page said we would be in a recession.
No, we're still pouring. I don't have much experience with pouring.
$15 billion in foreign investment promised and $3
Let's
billion
listen
of revenue anticipated. We don't know the eventual effects of these new tariffs, but for now, all of our economists who predicted were wrong. All of our cultural critics who said the universities would be destroyed by Donald Trump, that he would arrest innocent people who just happened to forget to get a visa, he wouldn't go after criminals, they're wrong too. So people are angry about this. There's another reason why they're angry. He's not addressing the symptoms that he did in the first administration. He doesn't have people like he did in the first administration. Arrest killers. Bill Barr, good man, but Bill Barr was not on the MAGA agenda. Jim Mattis, people like Anonymous, Omar also, all of these people who thought that they knew better than Donald Trump, and they would either stop what he was trying to do or reinterpret what he was trying to do. In other words, he has a team that is devoted to his counter-revolution, and more important, to the symptoms of the progressive project. The symptoms of the progressive project are not just the Democrats exercising power in Congress or holding the White House. It's how they get that power. And they get that the universities and endowments people now facing large fines, backing their endowments, a renewed way of new government attention toward student loans, $1.7 billion program, surcharges, as I said, segregation on campus and dorms. Universities are now under scrutiny. We're seeing the Department of Education itself being affected. I mentioned before, in addition to education and the media, Donald Trump is attacking the very idea that residency is synonymous with citizenship. That if you came here illegally and reside illegally, then you are eventually going to face a deportation.
I think he's doing
You have not been a criminal, and even if not, you haven't been served with deportation papers. So what he's trying to do is tell the American people that the left exercises power, even when they do not control the government, any control on most of the issues, if not all of them. Their constituency is only 40%. The majority of American people oppose their agenda, and they do this through the bureaucracies, through the media, through the universities, popular culture, and these are the very sources that Donald Trump is asking them to reform. And the government is going to shrink. The government's going to get out of the media business. The government's going to take a hard look at universities that want and obtain federal funds. We're going to see this kind of revolution, I think, succeed with one caveat. We're going to see in the next year a frenzy, reaction from the left, because they know that if this kind of revolution proceeds, it will be very difficult for them to push down an unpopular agenda down the throat of the American people. So what's going on? The problem with that stands for it really hurts millions of Americans who are trying to buy a home at 7% interest when the economy is not improving.
Everything we talk about here will be easy to hear, but that's exactly why it matters. Let's begin with someone who can pay attention to the signs most people miss.
There's been a lot of controversy recently about the relationship between the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, and Donald Trump, president. And the argument from the Trump side is does not show signs of inflation. People have argued, especially
I left him here for that reason.
that the tariffs and a trade war and
Keep him going, I hit her up on him.
increases would create inflation. Therefore, keep interest rates high, about 4.3, which translates into 30-year mortgages over 7%. On the other hand, Donald Trump said there's no evidence there's an inflation, and we would like to get some stimulus to avoid a recession. In other words, why don't you go down a point or maybe even 2 points in the manner that we saw the administration inflation is nothing to worry about, that it was transitory and the Fed was too slow and we got up to a hyperinflation in 2022 of 9%. In general, remember how the Fed works. If there is a fear of recession, they lower interest rates, then people have more easier access to money, so that stimulates them to spend, acquire, and then to avoid a recession. If there's too much inflation, people are afraid that the economy will overheat and we'll get a boom and bust cycle and the value of our money will diminish, so interest rates go up. Trump's argument, though, is that Powell is inconsistent. During March and April, when, to take one example, the Wall Street Journal was forecasting a stock crash, a trade war, uncertainty over tariffs, anemic GDP, and all of the barometers, if you read paragraph after paragraph of story after story, it was doom and gloom in March and April. At that point, you would have thought that Powell, who agreed basically with the consensus of the economic media and most of the economists, why didn't he intervene in fears that they were right, that we were headed towards a recession and lower rates? Instead, he didn't do anything. Now that all of those warnings turned out to be, non-factual and incorrect, suddenly he hasn't lowered interest rates. And the other what we're getting at is that there is no sign of inflation. So traditionally, if there's no sign of inflation, the economy is doing well, and you want to make it even do better, why not go down a little bit? So what's going on? I think a lot of what's going on to finish is that Jerome Powell has been in this fight with Donald Trump. He doesn't understand the art of the deal language. Donald Trump is calling two-way Powell, but it's actually whether we like it or not, he's acting emotionally and angrily to Donald Trump, and he's been under threat of being fired. He does not want to show that he's going to back down and leave the independent. When the economy is not inflation, we're losing a wonderful opportunity. More importantly, remember, Donald Trump says he's going to reduce the deficit. He's not going to touch Social Security, he's not going to touch defense, Medicare, but he's going to cut taxes and deregulate. If that stimulatory activity occurs and we get more revenue, we're going to be shortfall of the deficit either will not be cut.
some dealerships will turn off the check engine light
or it will rise. So what is Donald Trump trying to do? He's trying to look at non-traditional ways of raising and revenue or cutting expenses, and therefore getting closer to a budget. It could be balanced. Number one, the Doge people say that by the end of the year they will cut $200 billion. That would be $200 billion off of a $2 trillion deficit. The tariff people, which the Secretary says that the Treasury says that we're going to get an additional third of $1 trillion, $300 billion plus in tariff revenue. With those cuts and those additions and revenue, we might have, $500 billion. And Donald Trump, his part says just lower the interest rate. Instead of paying $3 billion a day, pay $2 billion. And that over the year might $300 billion. You see where they're getting at? They're trying to get up to $800 billion and therefore cut the entire deficit by 40% without raising taxes, without paying Medicare, without Medicaid. It's pretty hard to do, but that's the driving force behind the anger. It's not just the power of the economy, but that he's killing Donald Trump's initiatives by this $3 billion a day. Finally, I also got to kind of shrug off the attack by Trump. His duty is to be independent, or to be consistent. He can't show us that fears of a recession lead to lower interest rates and fears of inflation lead to higher interest rates. We should never raise interest rates 60 days before a presidential election. We did that on September 18th, or cut, and proceeded on the 18th of September, that's 2 months before the 2024 presidential election. In some ways, his conclusion, he reminded me of Mary Garland. Mary Garland was the Supreme Court nominee, and the Republicans invoked in kind of a genuine fashion the Biden rule that a lame-duck presidency, i.e. Barack Obama, could not nominate come up to a vote. It's very bitter, and the reward of that bitterness, Joe Biden made him Attorney General. We know from the Jack Smith special counsel, the Robert Hur special counsel, what the DOJ did as far as the FBI overreach, that he was a very bitter and very angry person who led the political animal for a pen of question who was not really just hoping to pass one television, and then social consistency through the Biden years and the Trump years, that when he has data that show a stable or booming economy, he keeps it stable or he raises it a little bit, and when he has a stable but weakening economy, in some ways he lowers it.
I think too many people are going to say, well, we would have a right, and they're not going to put up with it. They're sick of what the left has done with race.
If something feels
tragically, he died, but they don't remember that he was a war felon, that he took a gun into a woman's pregnant stomach in a home invasion, that he was stopped with a
record that he had not been trying to traffic counterfeit currency, he would have never been stopped. Had he not resisted arrest and just said, you know, officer, I'm going to get into the car, and just got into the car, he would have been fine. If he had not been on fentanyl, he would have been alive, I think. That doesn't excuse necessary behavior, but even that was cloudy about whether that's an accepted practice or what degree of legal. Then you remember George Zimmerman, and they remember the white Hispanic label, so that the middle line that in white on black, and it was a Hispanic man and a black man, young person. They remember that picture that made his real injuries look cosmetically okay, because they didn't want the idea that Fort Trevon pounded the guy's head. And they remember Michael Ford, and they remember all of the CNN and MSNBC people walking out of the studio crying, hands up, don't shoot. They remember that that was found to be completely made up. So my point is that there were not anything like this on the other side. They were all concocted, or they were destroyed that didn't warrant him having angel wings and a halo as you saw on the earth. But this has been doesn't matter, that's a one-on-one encounter, but what we're talking about are all these people, a dozen or so, who then jumped in, and there were three things that bothered people about the video. One was, by and large, all of the black attackers were young, and two, all of the people who were their victims were middle-aged. Three, in some cases, a woman was sucker punched. When these people hit the pavement, people then body slammed themselves on top of them. They kicked their head. They were trying to kill them when they were defenseless. Number five jumped in and were just as culpable as the men. So we'll see. The mayor, the vice mayor, I think the FBI, it's not going to work because Annette Dillon, she's not video is a racial component. And two, three, we're at the end of the DEI. What do I mean by that? I think we've gone as far as we can by identity politics. So we are 70% white, 30% non-white, and we're all trying to identify at least a 30% in some tribal fashion.
Why am I getting
Speaking as a Latino, speaking as a black, I'm Asian, I'm this, I'm that, I'm gay, I'm trans. It doesn't work. Look at India, multiracial democracy, Brazil, it doesn't work when you have caste and tribal rivalries and dissension. So once you go down that tribal path and you say that you're not responsible for your behavior because critical legal theory, critical racial theory says you steal a pair of sneakers, it's only against the law because rich white people don't have to steal sneakers. So when I steal at the San Francisco store, it's not. Well, I can say this and that about you, and I can say white this, white this.
This isn't just a steel rod. It's a lightning strike you can hold in your hand. personal bodyguard that fits in your pocket. But be warned, this is not a toy. It's the one tool that can give you back control in a split second, making it the ultimate everyday carry for personal safety. It's
Yeah,
a
I'm
particular
thinking
design for elite
hunted.
undercover units operating in high-risk zones. They need a weapon that can be hidden, hang tight one moment, and strike with unstoppable force the next. The automatic spring-loaded deployment system was a closely guarded secret. Its design was classified for years, unavailable to the public. That is, until the original patent expired.
Under affirmative action, DEI, etc. So they're not aware of the immediate systemic racism. And I know people say it still exists, but it doesn't in the way that it did. And the idea that you're going to say that you are a protected group of people and you're not going to be accountable for your behavior in the way that other people are, it doesn't work anymore. So if you're staff at university, you're listening to this, and you have the audacity to put on your website 3 years in a row that you let in 9% white males and they make up about 54% of the demographic, that doesn't work anymore. Or you're going to call your graduation an infinity graduation ceremony. Oh, it's not racist because it's 99% targeted at the European Americans, that's the last about 1 you say, well, that's the majority. No, California is so-called European Americans are a minority. It doesn't work. And team houses are segregated dorms, and safe spaces are segregated spaces. And the hyphenation salad bowl approach did not work. And what it did is it gave example that they did not struggle with the full force of the law. And it trickled down. I'm going to let you into this university on the basis of your race. Somebody's going to say, well, why did you let them in on the basis? Oh, because they have suffered, their grandfather suffered, or we think there's systemic racism or insidious racism. Oh, so then you're going to drop standards, you get them special preferences, then the person next on the economics says, well, how about me? But I need to get special preferences. Then the person below that, I need special, but it filters down that you will not be subject to the full force of the law because of your race, or tribe, or gender, or sexual They just need to say, who is this woman who kicked this man in the head? Who is this guy who tried to drive the city in guy's wallet? Who is this guy who body slammed it? Who are these people? 8, 10? You're going to be charged with felony and commit murder. That's all it was when they tried to kick a person in the head and tell stomp it dead on the street. Yeah. Well, we'll see, and then we'll see what they do. Even J.D. Vance, I was surprised. He weighed in, he really did. And he said, I don't know what started this, and I don't know who's to blame for triggering this, but I do know who's to blame when you start to sucker punch a woman. And he said, where I come from, that's the worst of all things to do. So they need to throw the book out and to reestablish deterrent. And believe me, the media can suppress the story, and they can say all they want, but they're on the wrong side as they use that word on the wrong side of history on this one, because people have come to the point, everybody, 26% of black males voted for Trump, 55% Hispanic males. Out of that voted, they're sick and tired of this. It's not a racist thing, it's a message to particular groups that you have a blank check and you're not going to face. At the same time this happened, we had a Walmart white guy who went in, homeless, another protected group of people, apparently, and he stabbed and almost killed 6 or 7 people and wounded another 4. And a black guy took out his gun and he pointed it and said, drop it. And he saved a lot of people's lives. And that guy is a hero. So it's not a racial thing to say, but it is when you have people of a particular racial group committing acts that are felonious in the middle of the public with the expectation that it's neat and they're laughing about it and nobody's going to do anything. And as soon as you see a white person on the ground, you're going to swarm them. And I think too many people are going to say if the roles are reversed, we would have a riot right now. and they're not going to put up with it anymore. And I don't mean just white people. I'm talking about conservative blacks. I'm talking about moderate blacks. I'm talking about Latino. They're sick of it. They're sick of what the left has done with race.
The EU will purchase $750 billion in U.S. energy while also investing $600 billion in America on top of its existing investments. Additionally, EU countries will be setting tariffs on U.S. goods at 0%. And Europe agreed to, quote, purchase a vast amount of military equipment, Trump said, end quote. Maybe Victor in part, Klein, I mean, the deal's a good thing in itself, but the energy thing may be also applicable to the situation.
Part of the factors to expand their product on several leasing is really good about it. You know, it's not going to take me 2 years to take a lease. I can do it in a month or so. The same way. But the frackers are out saying, well, you know what, prices are not all that great now, and you put all this money in it, and we'll have an oversupply. We need markets. So I think part of it is Trump is telling them we're going to have a huge export, liquefied natural gas export.
I can't understand that,
Europe,
man.
and you'll have a steady customer for a long time,
I can't
and you can make a
understand
profit on that. And that's, so that was very important. And then it's part of the idea
How do you
that
go to
Europe is
the
all
door?
under the table. Or in the case of Germany, openly still buying natural gas in various ways, methods from Russia. So it's a very good, it's all connected. And it brings up a larger point, you know, Jack, I don't want to keep this horse, I know everybody listening getting tired of this, but I'm very disappointed in the Wall Street Journal news, not the out-there. I really like Holman Jenkins, I love Gerald Baker, I think Ken Strassel is unrivaled. I like them all. I like them a lot. But the news division, when I read these articles, I look at the writers, and then I double click them and see where they came from. They all come from Politico, Washington Post, and New York Times. And so when you read these, and sometimes the editorial board itself, they can't give him any credit at all. Today there's an op-ed about how bad the immigration, how cruel it is, and what's cruel is letting in 12 million people a year. But the op-ed writers, the guest writers, Mary Cameron, I think her name is. When you read and they're saying that's not such a great deal, or he didn't get this, he didn't get that.
tell you
And when you look at March and April stories, we should be in a recession now, we're starting to should have been steady. The deficit should be baloney, there will be no revenue from tariffs, and then you read the Scott DeSantis, he's forecasting $1/3 trillion in tariff revenue, and job growth is good. And inflation is not spiraling out of control. It looks like there'll be good GDP. So all of this is good news, and nobody will recognize it. You know, I have the utmost respect for my colleagues in the Hoover Institute who have worked on economics for the last 2 years, but all of Trump is going to blow up the economy, the tariffs, and what's really strange. Germany zero trade unless you stop every drop of Russian oil. We know they do, and we know it's simple for their economy. So I can't understand how you can square up people and say, oh, this tariff, and then, oh, let's have a worldwide global secondary boycott. That would destroy the economy. The second thing is, all these things. I recently listened to
man. Don't kill me again. Don't kill me again. No, why don't you show us now? What?
All of those places
Show
together, or
now.
you name it, $9 trillion in market cap.
Ow! Fine, I'll put it away now.
It's called the jet box, and it's a German
Yes,
design
yeah,
that
bro.
to turn any hose into a military-grade pressure washer. And honestly, I thought I'd have to return it for him. I did not expect it to be this crazy. But before I turned it back, I figured it and guys, oh my gosh, it wasn't just spray water. It was like a supercharged pressure washer. I watched my grandpa hook it up to his house and just start blasting years of fire off the driveway. He was so excited, and honestly, I was really impressed. Dad was using it on everything.
Get away from me.
Always watching out.
He's killing me and you did not even save me.
That's when I realized he needed
Get away.
Whatever player in sports and quarterback.
Get up! Get up!
He's the best football.
What? I didn't mean to, man. I didn't mean to. No, please, please. He's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me, man. He's trying to kill me. Hold on, let's go somewhere. Come on. Need to try something. Go.
One of the incredible interviews I've done to date. I'm talking with Catherine Byrne. Have you ever thought what could happen if two completely different materials were mixed? One of them is known for giving wood shine and strength. The other
Me.
is tested
Now.
in practically everything.
Here not long after, and if you look behind you here, these are the photos they took. Not a single photo would rewrite American history.
Like the absolute nerd that I am, and I came across a very interesting article about a photograph that was taken during the Civil War.
A mysterious 100-year-old Civil War photo was found in a dust pan. But when experts zoomed in, everything changed. Faces no one could see.
director of the Social Security Administration is raising concerns over what's being called the 265
Never meant to be seen. It started with a trunk, old leather strap, brass black, letter after decades in the attic of Claire's family home. He hadn't even started. He was just cleaning, organizing, maybe looking for a few antiques or salvage. But what he found instead wasn't just valuable. Lace gloves, and a few shattered glasses. Then her hand brushed it back. Sealed in wax paper. This one had weight to it. Thicker spot, sealed edges, and a faint scent that Claire couldn't quite place. Tobacco, glue, something old and strange. She didn't open it immediately. Not until the wind was updrawn and her curiosity unbearable. Claire pulled back the wax sleeve, and her breath caught in her throat. There, in haunting clarity, was Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was dressed in a black frock coat, his unmistakable top twinkling in the sunlight to the extreme right of the frame. Beside him, an empty wooden with several high-ranking
sides, making General Ulysses S. Grant and General George Meade part of history. But not so much for Claire. It took the color to shape her head. Not hand coloring, but thinking or painting. This was all informed uniforms, the wood grain of the chair, even the creases in Lincoln's black suit catching subtle light. Like a modern photograph disguised as a 19th century print. The caveat? Color photography was impossible in 1865. Claire knew the photograph wasn't ordinary and took it to the only person she could trust, Professor George Kramer, the Civil War photography historian who had long lectured at her first laid eyes on the print. Leaned closer. You need to tell me exactly where you found this, he said in a low voice. Claire narrated the attic, the trunk, the wax paper, everything she could recall. Kramer did not blink. Instead, he pointed to the microscope and said something that made her heart race. That is Alvin Mansfield's print from the 1860s. There is no way it should hold color. She asked the obvious question. So, is it fake? Kramer said in a low voice, as if the color had left his face. No, that's the scary part. It's not fake. He arranged for experts at the New York Historical Society to analyze the photo for confirmation. There, Kramer and Claire examined the image under high-resolution equipment, imaging specialist, and a paper conservator. What the lab had to say, the pigments were not applied after printing, but in fact embedded into the photo itself. A process similar to early Kodachrome, but one that predates it by half a century. Unbelievable as it sounds, so confirmed the scan. Organic pigments and photochemistry all dated to sometime in the 1960s. This not only violated the rules of photography, but also those of history itself. Claire, however, had eyes for something else. Not the technology by which the experts were still toiling, standing slain between Lincoln and Grant. A figure not found among Civil War archives or officer rosters. An anonymous fellow was barred from the historical roster, but not from would lead to a closely guarded family legacy, going back through a century of buried history. But the real history between Lincoln and Grant. The man in the middle. The photo had already shocked everyone in the room. The clarity, the color, the impossible chemistry. But while the others pored over pigment stuff, Claire couldn't take her eyes off the man between Lincoln and Grant. Wasn't like the others. The officers stood stiffly, decked out in well-earned stripes and ceremonial safety. No rank displayed, no name she could match from the Civil War portrait. He wore a uniform, yes, but it lacked insignia. His expression? Steady, as if he weren't merely part of the photo, but part of something else entirely. Claire had seen this face before, not in a textbook or an archive, but in a much later photograph from her family collection. She jerked up a scan on her phone, a 1912 image of a man standing outside a barn, one hand resting on a dog's head. He was older and heavier, dressed like a farmer, but the jawline, the ears, the slight slope of the eyebrow, it was him, the same man, standing beside Abraham Lincoln nearly 50 years earlier. That should be my great-great-grandfather, Claire whispered. Professor Kramer looked up sharply. What? She insisted on having him on the phone. Kramer leaned toward it, brow furrowed as he moved back and forth between the two images. He doesn't seem to show any record for the Civil War. Kramer muttered more to himself than with any intent to include her. Could be a volunteer, maybe even a civilian, caught in uniform. No breaking class followed. No William His grandfather had served in the Civil War, but had disappeared before it was over. No more particulars, just that he did not come back.
to the back. にめくむめくれファンタ無限無言に Level 16. Out there. Just where I need to put it. Let's go. Touch it. I never know what hit them. Oh, and I should get a gun. Because no. Oh. Stop that. Go to that back. Whoa! Like, someone explain to me what just happened. I swear, I got invited to that group, and I did not realize the notifications. So I just left. I don't know if that was really good. I don't know who killed. Oh, yeah, it's got. Yeah, it's got fun. Oh, you just talked to me. What? What? Come back, baby. Hey, you love it. I'm sorry. No alarms must have started. Seriously, the lounge takes this long. to change something in my life. Now when I'm hitting 13. For remember this guy? This is where I bought my chainsaw, if I remember, yeah. Okay. Okay.